Miguel Iterati, Anthony Scott Piatt, the Guru ASP, back here on Piatt Picks, and we're doing a post-fight wrap-up of Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, and we were treated to some compelling television this afternoon. What do you think?
Really very close. Hey, kudos. You said the minus 1400 was disrespectful to Ngannou because heavyweights have that punching power, and this would not be a Conor McGregor Mayweather type of fight. It would be much closer. You were indeed correct. Right before the fight, I've sent the odds. You can throw those up. You were able to get Ngannou at plus 950, I believe, and Tyson had jumped to minus 1850. So the odds got even more disrespectful, especially in retrospect. So good call on that, Miguel. Obviously, the bet did not pay off. But look, folks, I'm always happy when we look at a dog watch. Not a guy we're saying is going to win, but is really going to do better than the odds. So take what Miguel says on that situation. The over rounds would pay and all those sorts of things on that. And also just be aware that if he's saying there could be an upset, you would have still won if you bet Fury money line, but you sure sweat through the son of a bitch a lot more than you thought you would have. So Miguel saw that coming. Kudos to you, Miguel, on that. Really, really good analysis going into that. So if you didn't watch the show before, it's a short show as well. Check it out. See what we're talking about here. Miguel knows his MMA and boxing, and so anyway, I don't want to go on too much about that, but man, did you ever call this one right? Wow.
I appreciate it. Hats off to Francis for doing his job, making it real compelling. I wonder, here's the thing for all the fans out there: the casinos made buck, because here's the bottom line: is round 8, round 9, live betting. I wonder what the odds were there, and I wonder how much money was coming in that Ngannou's going to win. And they're just taking it in, and at the end of the day, they kept all that.
That's right. That's right. It was split decision for those of you that obviously, one for Francis Ngannou, one judge. The other two judges by very close scores for Tyson. It is controversial. There was the knockdown of Tyson in the third round. I've taken a quick look at the CompuBox numbers. Power punches, a little more from Ngannou. Jabs, Tyson outscored him. But if you look at the last two rounds, he was outscored something like 6. I think Ngannou landed 6 punches in the last 2 rounds total. So keep in mind, folks, boxing is a round by round scoring. So the CompuBox numbers can point you in a direction, but they don't tell the tale. Ngannou outlanded Fury by a lot in certain rounds, and then Fury by a little outscored Ngannou in more rounds, and that's why the fight ended up like it did. I thought it might have been a draw even. It was a very interesting fight for him to get knocked down. But look, that's the 7th time Fury's been knocked down. Okay, he's still undefeated. It's the 7th time. He's susceptible.
He got up, and we've seen him do that before, and that's the story there. But man, was it interesting. And let me point out, if you look at the analysis, we talked about how we could believe that Fury was taking this seriously. After looking at his body, I tell you, he didn't.
Right.
He didn't shed the pounds that he did for the Fury for the Wilder fights.
No, and even after our taping, he came in last night, and even this morning, and was saying some things that were counter to what he had said in that prior interview, saying, I sparred 6 times to get ready for this fight. I only sparred 6 times. I ate whatever, I ate trash, I ate burgers and dogs and whatever, you know what I mean? So it was a different tune this morning or yesterday than it was going in. Maybe that's selling the fight and then bringing expectations down a little bit, which he plays so well like a politician. But hey, what's this do for the Usyk fight? Afterwards, Frank Warren said we have to take a look and see where we're, all of a sudden it went from December for sure to Frank Warren saying, let's take a break. Let's see what's going on here. I don't think Tyson was so injured that he couldn't fight in December if he didn't want to. I don't know.
The thing about it is, at that level, and you notice this is throughout history, at the highest level, the fighter, as he approaches the peak, gets to the peak, and then ends his career, needs more time between fights. It's not just for the promotion, it's also for the emotion. How is he going to get up for a big fight again after this? Because Tyson Fury got nothing but egg in his face after this. He didn't deliver on anything that he did. The stock that rose here is Francis Ngannou. And the sad part about that, I trust the PFL will drop the ball and mishandle the golden egg that they were given, but that's a different problem. But Fury doesn't look great right now.
Now, I got a question for you. This is something, I mentioned him in the show prior, Rochester, MMA picks that we'll get into the year 2024 champions and whatnot. But he already texted me tonight and he said, hey, if he wants a rematch, what do you think? Well, I got to thinking about that. And here's something interesting. If the belts weren't on the line here because Ngannou wasn't in the top 15, well, he's going to be ranked now. Not maybe in the top 15, maybe not, but my gosh, if you take the world champion that deep, maybe you should be. But if Fury, say, goes on to fight Usyk and can become undisputed, and let's say Ngannou boxes one other guy, some other top 20 or 15 guy, can Ngannou get himself in the position to actually fight for the titles, for undisputed champion of the world, in maybe his second or third fight in some rematch with Tyson Fury?
I'll tell you an even better scenario. Let the Fury-Usyk fight happen. Maybe Usyk wins. What do you think of Ngannou and Usyk? Now
It'd be a brilliant fight. It'd be a brilliant fight.
And with Usyk, you have a situation where his teammate Vasyl Lomachenko, he was in a world title fight in his second professional fight. So it's not like it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
Ngannou could say, look, I dropped him. I think I won. I would never stop saying I won if I was Ngannou right now.
Right.
And I bet you a lot of people watching that fight feel the same way. He performed stellarly as we thought he would, the seriousness of it. And Fury, he said he took it serious. He said all the right things, but we know that he knows how to handle the mic.
Yeah.
He didn't back it up. And here's the other thing is, and we may have talked a little bit about this, but I present to you the Brock Lesnar effect, where Brock was able to come to, fight at the highest level and perform because he's a heavyweight.
That's right.
He's a top-level wrestler in the lower weight classes, and he wasn't even in the ballpark. He wasn't fit to carry the water to the corner man. So the heavyweight factor is here. And, and thinking back about it, we had a previous discussion about maybe Fury, maybe Usyk being in the top pound for pounds, but I think you were right that the heavyweights just don't belong there. The bottom line is things become an even playing field because they just don't have the variety of skill. And Fury made the absolute wrong choice to decide to clinch and fight in close.
Well, and also the ref, speaking of that, the ref broke those clinches instantly. Somewhere around the second round, I noticed Fury tried to clinch, and then after he got knocked down, he definitely was trying to clinch. And I've seen fights where Fury wraps him up. He can spend 20 seconds hanging on the ropes, doing virtually nothing. You didn't get 2 seconds out of this ref. I mean, as soon as he saw he was breaking him up already. Big advantage for anybody that fights Tyson Fury. We talked about this, about the Usyk fight. If they let Fury hug Usyk, advantage Fury. If they stop it like the ref did tonight, what can Usyk do to Fury if they don't let him hug?
Even the clinches, I mean, what he's counting on is putting weight on him and tiring him out. And Usyk, that isn't going to work with a guy that skilled. And the bottom line is Fury forgot at a distance, even these punches that he was throwing against Wilder and people like that, his movement, maybe he felt fat because he looked fat. Maybe he felt fat and didn't think he can do the moves anymore. But if he thinks this type of punching at his length is going to be effective, he's way off. Clinching was not what he needed to do. He needed to show me the full array of boxing footwork, and that's where you lose a guy like Ngannou. At the more sophisticated it gets, you do ballet against a breakdance.
And we were right about the 6th round. At the end of the 5th, Ngannou looked gassed. 6th and 7th, breathing through the mouth. Footwork slowed down. All the things that you would think Fury would then capitalize on. But Fury also slowed down. He also didn't, and tired out. You could tell. It seemed like there was a couple rounds there where Fury wasn't as tired, but he didn't capitalize. I think he needed to. In the 7th or 8th round is when he needed to really go for it more. By the 9th and 10th, they were both tired.
Yep. I think what we mentioned here is, the possibility of maybe Usyk beats Fury, and then you have Ngannou, who should challenge Usyk, and it would be a big fight. Usyk has no reason to not take it. Why not triple the paycheck? You know what I mean?
That's right.
The X factor becomes that Ngannou is under contract to the PFL and MMA, and there's simply nothing compelling that they can do, not on this level. So it's going to be interesting how things play out for Ngannou. He's very savvy in terms. He's played his career. He played his career. He waited, and he got what he wanted because he's patient. And I think he's serious. He's a serious athlete. So when he says he's going to deliver something, he did. When Fury said, "I've taken this fight more seriously than any other fight," he was lying. He was lying, and that's a problem. So, Ngannou's going to take the next fight very seriously. We'll see what the PFL thinks they can deliver for him. I think they should just let him go. And he should play free agent and do whatever comes next down his way, because right now he's very compelling as an attraction and very dangerous.
Yep. Very interesting night. Very revealing. The best crossover folk has done against a heavyweight. Any crossover artist, male or female, against the heavyweight champion of the world. Split decision. Wow. Hats off, Francis Ngannou. Cameroon made Cameroon proud.
For sure. And I think he carries all of that with a seriousness. Like we recently saw Logan Paul against Dylan Dennis. And Dylan Dennis was clearly there just for the money. Now, don't get me wrong, Francis got paid. But it went beyond that. He said, "You're paying me, I will give you everything I have."
That's right.
And
that's right.
My hat's off to a guy who delivers that.
Have to respect it. Have to respect it. There's no other way around it. That's a true warrior. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Francis Ngannou.
That's for sure. Now, we'll see. Like I said, in terms of these crossover fights, I'm not a big fan of them. I think every once in a while you can get a special one that could be compelling, and this one turned into that, and I'm grateful for that. But I don't want to see too much of this. And I mentioned the best thing that could happen is that it will mess up the Usyk fight. And it already seems to. So we'll see.
I think it probably already has. You're a prophet.
And the other part of it is with Fury, you got to be careful here. Because, at 6'9", everybody, and I've heard he's the best heavyweight in the world. That's trash. The best heavyweight ever, rather. That's trash. There's no chance that he's the best heavyweight ever. The bottom line on this is guys that big, he had his peak already. He was actually an uncoordinated goofball a lot of the time in his early career, and he will fade back into being that. Maybe, like I said, he didn't want to do the footwork and dancing here. He felt fat. Maybe he's older, and he didn't feel he could deliver that. You don't want to get caught dancing and knocked out either. So you hug and you take your chances. Francis, in tight, again, the punching, it's not as powerful as when you can set it up and throw that big punch. But Fury has signaled to us that he's on the downturn. And that's the bottom line. So now we'll see what we get with it. And I hate to be, that you're calling me prophet. I appreciate that. I take that tongue in cheek. I try to be humble, and I would hate to see it happen. But I think one of the things that you want to watch out for here is that Fury goes on another addict's run.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, he fell apart. He's
Yep.
not in trouble. He's doing cocaine in bars.
Yeah.
He's done that to us before. And after this disappointment, because there's nothing on it to his camp that they can look at and say, well, that was a positive. You know, you talk the talk, you did not walk the walk. And your whole talk is that you walk the walk. That's what the buildup is there with him. And he didn't do it. So how does he?
And I gotta say, speaking of the buildup, they were trying to build the open. They had an opening ceremony. They tried to say it's going to be like an Olympic open ceremony. Well, first off, don't call anything an Olympic opening ceremony. They spend $85 million or something on that Olympic opening ceremony. Stop, all right? But it was all right. It's a little song and dance, whatever. The thing popped up from underneath the ring and whatnot. But it was all so uncoordinated and ill-timed, and the music was weird, and the entrances were strange, and they had Ngannou on his throne, but with the lights off for a good 40 seconds, so everybody saw him before the big reveal and the light comes on. And the production was horrible. And I thought they had me at first. This is really going to be something. This is going to be cool. And what they showed was they have the money to do whatever they want, but they didn't put the effort and get the producers that they needed and that sort of thing to run the show properly.
In terms of the show that they delivered, I think they showed the capabilities of being a new Vegas. And you're right. I think if they fell short on some things, don't sleep on the fact that they can spend money to improve. That's
absolutely, yes, you're right. You're right.
They're looking at a boss there that's just as picky, just as wanting to be on top as everything, and maybe notice exactly the same things that you do, and will exude himself to correct that. Right. I've seen it happen before in terms of the Abu Dhabi Combat Championships and tournaments. That's why I actually became involved with them. Is I took over the judging for them, and I took over the videoing for them, because the production before that did not hold grace. And I did some of the 5 of the early tournaments until we handed it off to real corporate people.
Nice.
They are people that will spend, because this is about ego and about making the country look good. Yep. And I think, like I said, now they're a destination. Now they are on par with Vegas, looking to pass Vegas. And I think they will do that. I think we're in a dangerous situation geopolitically where things could be abruptly affected, but let's just keep it in the sport realm. And I think that you've got a place that people want to fight at. And again, you've got a boss who's going to say, what was it with the lights? Fire the light guy. March him out to the desert, dig him up to his neck, and leave him there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, they're gonna make some changes. And it was a who's who. I mean, of boxers and celebrities and rappers and other athletes.
And that's what they wanted it was part of the ego thing. And the truth is that they're not boxing experts. They're not fight experts. They're show and ego experts. And this is part of it. But so there are some holes there, and but they presented something big. I enjoyed everything that we saw, and I think Absolutely. What we saw here is the beginning of the end of the Tyson Fury run. And more power to him. He had a great run. Yep. And maybe because of some of the personal problems and some of the things that fell apart. Even if you look back at it, he had a fight. I forget the name of the guy. He was a cruiserweight coming up. He's a British guy, a light-skinned black guy, big puncher, that they were supposed to fight, never did. I'll get his name for us by next podcast, but people will know who I'm talking about. The fights were canceled. Fury went off and actually trained and became the fighter he is now in that interim. And, he spent his prime. He's not in his prime anymore. And that's what we saw here.
Yeah, especially when he doesn't train like that, or doesn't get that weight off, at least, let's say.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
interesting, very, very interesting. Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be
No,
fun to see. I can't. You know, he also said he felt ring rust, and because he waited too long, it had been almost a year. So then you say, well, fight Usyk in December then. You know, if it's ring rust, if I needed to train harder, well then train harder. Uh, I don't see pushing the fight back past sort of a March or April time frame though, and it being good for the sport or either participant.
no. When he fought Klitschko, he showed up in Germany, and when he got to the hotel, and they have a stock of water and food and stuff there for you. He turned it all down, and he said, his opponents have been testing positive for steroids. I don't trust anything you do. I'm bringing my own stuff. That was him at his highest point mentally and physically. I bet he ate at the Saudi Arabian hotel. I bet he ate a lot this time.
Right.
He forgot where he came from. He doesn't have the edge anymore because he's become a showman. He can handle the mic. When they handed him the mic at the press conferences and they did pressers and stuff months ago, he was what he usually is, controlling the room, joking. Ngannou's serious and quiet, so he was in control completely. But he let that become what's important and not the work. And like I said, at the end of the day, giant guys, when they become uncoordinated fast. I'll give you a guy to look up whose name I do remember, and I apologize to the fans. But and he's a British guy, a guy who was pretty tough, and a guy whose mindset was also a dog. It's a guy named David Price.
Oh, sure.
And unfortunately, David, they found his chin. And, again, as a big guy, slower, it was easier and easier to get him. And
Yep.
it's going to become easier and easier to get Tyson Fury. The thing is, if Tyson does get up, one day he won't. And we'll see what happens. I think the scenario here, in terms of monetization too, I think we laid it out, is the most intriguing situation here would be for Tyson to go ahead and do the Usyk fight, lose to Usyk, and then have Usyk sit back and wait for the challenge from Ngannou. Because, there's nothing else that he could do. And Usyk, for the work and the talent that he has, why not? They put in a payday. And I take you back in boxing to the days of John L. Sullivan, Jack Johnson, these guys. Turn of the century, turn of the last century. They would do vaudeville. They would do challenge matches against anybody in the crowd kind of thing. This isn't just happens in bars and MMA stuff, at a low level. It happened at the highest level. The heavyweight champion said, look, I'm the heavyweight champion. There's nobody. Is there anybody here who wants to try it? And people would step up and they'd have to deliver. And, there's an element of risk. And I present to you that's kind of where this idea for Fury came forth. It came with the idea that, we take a risk against an X factor. I've always thought, if you train so much in boxing and things and you're facing another boxer, there's certain elements that are not a surprise. Where, like, I feel like a extremely skilled boxer, like in a street fight, against somebody who's not trained, but angry and really almost, I hate to use an unprofessional term, but a guy who has like that retard strength that can lift a Volkswagen, and you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, right.
That's really dangerous. That's really dangerous because you have no idea how his explosion could come.
Right.
And
I see what you mean. Yeah.
I kind of think actually also that's the path for the PFL and Francis Ngannou. Present him because they don't have an opponent. And that's the problem with what the PFL has with Ngannou. They haven't tied down the contract. They don't have an opponent. They can put him in against their heavyweight champion. Who is that guy? No one knows. No one knows. The guy's mother doesn't know. So where are they going to get an opponent? Can they convince? They just recently threw the idea out of having Nate Diaz fight Logan Paul in an MMA fight. If they could get Tyson Fury to do it, John Jones isn't available. There's a scenario where the UFC's lawsuit plays out and their monopoly is broken and John Jones is available. The lawsuit comes to court in April. It's a 5 to 6 week lawsuit. But the UFC is going to appeal. There's no doubt. So are they going to wait another year and a half to present Ngannou and maybe get John Jones? No, they've got to do something. So put him in the ring and say, anybody in the world, come fight our champion. I don't see any other scenario. There's nothing compelling to do with him for the PFL. They should actually let him go into boxing.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe he'll try to keep doing both. It's interesting. One last note that I'm thinking of. What's your best guess of where, and we could talk about which organization, but somebody's going to rank Ngannou in the top 25, maybe top 15, right? I mean, you got a split decision against the champion of the world. Are you not top 25 yourself at this point? You've got to be, right?
Yeah. We saw Joseph Parker, a very solid boxer, I think from New Zealand on the undercard. I think Ngannou would beat him up. He's also 30 pounds heavier. And that's the thing is Ngannou's a specimen.
And that's what you mentioned about the heavyweights. The bigger guys have an inherent advantage over even boxers that have done it for a little while. Ngannou's not KSI. Ngannou is not a non-combat person. Okay. And so it's a little different there. And then being a heavyweight with that power. Look, Wilder isn't a great boxer. We've talked about this before. Wilder's an amazing puncher, not a great boxer. At the heavyweight level, you don't have to be a great boxer to win. It is different.
I will tell you this, and my hat's off to Deontay Wilder. Wilder probably would finish Ngannou in a few rounds. Because
you think so? Yeah.
He wouldn't need to come out to do the show that I think Tyson Fury came out too confident, found himself in deep water quick, and then we saw what we saw. But I think Wilder has enough skill and power that he should be able to define and show what boxing is. And then that's the X factor. Like I said, there's no way this happens at any level at the lower levels. The most skilled boxers in the world are the smaller you get. And that's where guys like me and you, like I've compared them before. Boxing and MMA are like ballet and breakdancing. They're both unbelievable to watch. And when you watch the best breakdancers, sometimes you got to say, holy shit, even if you don't like it. Ballet too, the guys are so fit, so unbelievably quick and precise and things like that. And that's what boxing is. I take you back to what George Foreman said too. He compared boxing to jazz. The better it gets, the less people understand
it. Yeah.
When you're talking about the elite of the elite, the best guy, that's why they do the pound for pound, and we miss that by putting heavyweights in the pound for pound. And I'm almost sorry for that conversation we had. Because Tyson Fury, if you took his skill set and put it in a 135 pounder, he wouldn't be top 20.
Right. So with that statement, then we have to evaluate, should he be in the top 10 overall? And as you say, I mean, it's just very tough to put heavyweights in there, with the exception of Alexander Usyk, who I've said is pound for pound better than Tyson Fury and could lose to Tyson Fury and still be higher on my pound for pound list, even if he lost to Tyson Fury, because of how he's moved up.
I give you credit. It was you who pointed out the heavyweights don't belong there. I was kind of trying to make a case for him, and that's why I'm kind of feeling it right now. You know what I mean? It's like I knew that, and I was still talking the other way. So my hat's off to you, brother. But Usyk is one of those guys that he looks like a slow Lomachenko.
Yeah.
And you got to take into account does he belong in the top three, or does Lomachenko? Because I think when you take into account speed and things like that, you don't want to be that slow at a lighter weight.
Yeah.
So Usyk is refined to the highest level that we've seen. I think when you compare guys like Holyfield and David Haye is the guy I was talking about in terms of
Oh, absolutely.
the Fury fight, and he came up from cruiserweight as well. You take the best cruiserweights, guys, Orlin Norris, guys that came up in the heavyweight, they still had a little bit of a little something different that they brought in, and
Yeah,
that the reason for that is because they weren't natural heavyweights. At
that's right.
heavyweight, things slow down a little bit, and things become a little more reliant on power and reliant on whatever your gimmick is and things.
Yeah.
But you were absolutely right. They don't belong. It's like if I could take if you could fight like Gervonta Davis as a 215 pounder, you would unite the world and you would be emperor.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah.
Well, there's no other way to say it.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So, and speaking of which, Tyson was still on some of those lists, by the way. I'm sure he's going to drop after this, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Uh, making this next fight even more interesting, I would say. So,
No, pressure's all on the Fury camp, because
yeah,
here's the thing is you're on top and then you're not. And we
that's it.
just saw that moment. We just saw that moment for Tyson Fury. He may say, no, that's not the case. I'm going to train. It's like, you've trained, you haven't trained, you've got on runs, you haven't got on runs. I don't want to hear any more of your shit.
Yep.
Show me. And we'll see what he does. I predict the December fight with Usyk doesn't happen. Something will happen. He may go on a run, or he may say my
Yep.
hand got hurt, or he may be like, I'm not ready. But I don't see how at that level emotionally he can get up again in just 10 weeks. It's just, that's a part of managing that's really important that some people don't grasp. And that's been the downfall of a lot of people.
And another fight that becomes more interesting now is because they both fallen down a notch, is Fury and AJ now hold some interest again, for me, at any rate. Whereas before this fight, I felt like AJ was slipping a little bit and it wasn't really the matchup I wanted to see. But now you go back to that English blockbuster and worldwide interest and whatnot in a fight like that, with AJ fans saying, we told you all along Tyson wasn't that good. AJ's been fighting because he fights more people than Tyson does. Now we're really going to see the truth, and AJ's going to whoop him, and you guys he'll be the king again. So now there's intrigue, and if even for fans to argue about it, it makes the fight have buzz again.
That is absolutely fabulous call, because here's the bottom line is AJ has taken his lumps and he's no longer where he was. But right now, with Tyson Fury, he can do that, put the hand on his back and leapfrog him and be on top again, because, at the end of the day, he's still undefeated,
Yeah.
so there's that aspect, but he has to have looked at that performance and be like, you really don't.
Yeah. Let me
I was never on the AJ bandwagon. I always thought he was very vanilla and kind of protected. And, Eddie Hearn is a fantastic promoter. He's British, so he doesn't get as much credit in the United States. He actually has dipped his toe in the United States and done very well. And he's a second generation guy. He's a genius.
Mhm.
And Anthony Joshua, I thought, was his greatest creation. But Joshua has to look at that and be like, I would almost favor Joshua in a Tyson Fury fight as of right now. Oh, just
It's wild, but yeah. Yeah. So I think now probably both camps should be in negotiations. If the Usyk thing was not actually signed, which going in, I felt like it was done and signed, but now they're talking about they need time to evaluate. So there must have been some caveats. Now, if that's just for time extension, then it's still Usyk and would just win? Or does the AJ camp come and say, hey, what about us? We want to go
Well,
to the dance too.
I think we'll do that. Here's the thing: is Usyk is probably going to beat Tyson. Let's just leave it at that. He beats Tyson. Then Usyk goes off and fights Ngannou. This is the landscape maybe for next year, and this would be good for boxing. I think it would be good for boxing. AJ waits for Tyson, even with one loss. They do that big fight. It's big. He wins. AJ supplants him, and Tyson just fades away.
Yeah.
And you know what? He can go to, I know they're gypsies and stuff like that, and I'm not sure, with the money and stuff like that, it's no longer this. But like I compare his upbringing to kind of like trailer park people in the United States. Go back to the trailer park. And I hate to be vulgar or rude or anything like that, but go back. You're the richest guy there, and enjoy telling stories about your life because it's phenomenal. But
And I hope he can
no
do that. I
longer
don't know that his mental health is good enough if he's not in the sport. What happens? He did have that when he supposedly retired just last year, and it's maybe still running or just finished, but that at home with the Furies or whatnot. And of course, in it for the first 3 episodes, he's retired, but then of course he unretires for this fight by the time the series is even over. And he seems to be doing okay in that, is what I'm getting at. But it wasn't a very long time that he was retired, and there was always the obvious possibility that he wasn't really retired. Once he really retires and it's really over, I wonder how hard that will be for him to take. I think he knows it will be hard. So does he end up fighting past his prime? Does he go from undefeated to retiring with 3 losses?
Yeah, no, I think he, we see him a couple more times. If it doesn't go right for him, then shortly after that, we see him, become the type of person that can't fit through a door. If he doesn't,
Oh, Lord.
if he doesn't
Yeah.
keep his mental health together and really take
Yeah.
care of himself, the bottom line is you've got money, you can set your kids up, you can
Yeah.
do the right thing. Keep your shit together, Tyson. This isn't the end of the world. You're not the first guy whose career has started on a downslide and ended. So do the right thing for your family. You know what I mean? Don't be this, bombastic, like I'm so eclectic that, I got to go on a cocaine run or do any of the things that, you've shown some chinks in your armor before.
That's right. That's right.
But I think he's real susceptible to that still. I haven't.
Yeah, I do worry about him once he retires, or even as you say, even after a loss or a near loss, as such as we just saw here. Because if
Like
this
now,
scuttles the Usyk
right
thing, it
now.
is a loss. Yeah, yeah. This is a loss in some ways. Exactly.
Here's the thing. This I can guarantee you one thing. And maybe I can't guarantee it because he's in Saudi Arabia right now, and it's probably hard to hit the streets and find cocaine.
Right,
But
right.
maybe he knows somebody.
Yeah.
It may happen right now.
Lord. Well, fingers crossed for the guy and for the sport. We want him to stick around, make these fights, make it happen, stay healthy. And that's for all of y'all. Keep it safe out there. Yeah.
I'll leave you with this. Tyson Fury, look, if you're on the downside of your career, you've had a great career and you've had a storybook career too with so many X factors and stuff. Who do you know would make like a better guy to retire in the commentary? Keep making money. Keep doing things like that. Do the right thing.
Stay
Contribute to the
involved.
sport.
Yeah, contribute to sport. Stay involved.
Don't fall apart. But I think we are at a crossroads for him here. I don't know what he's capable of. What could happen here?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't either. It'd be interesting to see. So, well, Miguel, great
We've
night
gone
of it.
long.
Interesting. Only the one fight. I mean, there were a couple other fights we won't get into, but Fabio Wardley and whatnot won pretty convincingly. I didn't watch much of the others besides a couple.
I'm a Joseph Parker fan too, so hats off to Joseph. But we've gone long here, but I think we've had a lot of fun talking about it because this was the biggest fight of the year.
It was really something else, wasn't it? So, hey, we'll get back at you guys. There's some more fights coming up shortly. Hey, shout out to Amanda Serrano, by the way. This is a fight that we sort of overlooked on Friday night. We had mentioned it, but in a few episodes back, we had mentioned that it was the first women's fight that was 12 rounds and 3 minutes for a championship fight. And we had mentioned betting the distance on that because she wanted to set the record. So don't bet the knockout. She did in fact set the new world record for women's boxing as we sort of had predicted. Forgot to mention that again in the last episode, but we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, so we're happy with that prediction as well.
And Amanda is a groundbreaking person on the women's end, well worth watching, historic, and I'm proud of her for doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for following. Please subscribe, share it, buy it picks. We appreciate y'all.